had these observations I just wanted to talk to you about because I've also read your beautiful book, Crying in H Mart, which got a lot of attention and love. It's a memoir, and I told you it is so well written. You are half Korean. Mom was Korean. Dad's American. You're born in Seoul, but then moved to Eugene, Oregon.
Yes.
And live not just like in downtown Eugene, but you live in the woods.
Yes, yeah.
And there's this, your last name is not Korean, but people are constantly in your life as a child trying to figure out who you are, and I get the sense that you're also trying to figure out who you are as a kid. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we all are. But yeah, it was certainly an added kind of like complication being in a very predominantly white neighborhood and feeling, like I think when you're a teenager, sort of everything is embarrassing, like you're embarrassed if you're taller than the rest of the students or and so I think that for me that was just really mortifying, and I couldn't figure out why it felt like such a big deal for a long time.
People would come up to you, kids would come up to you and say, what are you?
Right.
They want to know. I mean, kids need to label, not always from a bad place. They just want to fix on who you are.
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes in a bad way. And you're very isolated because, as I said, you're way out there.
Yeah.
And so you're spending a lot of time in nature alone, but you're not always happy about it.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and it's another common thread with a lot of creative people, is they want to get out. They want to get out there and see what's going on.
Right.
Which it felt like when I read your book, you were very interested in that. Like, how do I get out of here and see stuff?
I mean, I think it was also partially like both of my parents are from larger cities, and like it was sort of, Seoul is like a huge city, and my dad is from Philadelphia, and so it was, I feel like they both just had very big personalities, so I was always going to have a very big personality. My entire life, I've been told to like calm down or be quiet. I have like a very loud voice.
Wow, you and I are kindred spirits. I'm still being told to just shut up and calm down.
Yeah, but and then like once I moved to New York, I was like, oh, I'm just like normal here. This is great. But yeah, I come from, so like for people who don't know, like Eugene is like a real like hippy dippy kind of town. Like it's very granola. I had a very beautiful childhood, but it was a weird sort of environment. And I think that was a big part of why I became a very creative person, because I was just bored, because there was like no kids around, there was like no neighbors, and I didn't have any siblings. I was an only child, and so I think I just got used to like spending a lot of time thinking about things. And
you just mentioned the word bored, and I remember telling my wife early on when our daughter was born, because there's such a culture now of kids must be constantly stimulated, They're like listening to Beethoven in the womb. The minute they're born.
The iPad babies.
Exactly. Yeah. They're constantly stimulated. And I remember saying to my wife, and she agreed, I said, we have to leave room for boredom, because boredom is where the good stuff comes from. Whether it's guys in Liverpool's in the late 50s, like there's nothing to do. Let's make a band, because there's nothing to do. And it's raining out. And I think, especially at a place like Eugene, Oregon, you can't go outside and play every day. And
it's raining most of the time.
It's raining most of the time. And I think another thing that's really interesting is, obviously you talk a lot in your book about your connection with your mother and how complicated it is, and how there were periods where you were really at odds. You cling to her as a child, and then there's adolescence, and you're really fighting her. And you talk about this relationship, and it feels like some of that was the catalyst, I have to think, for some of the creativity, possibly. This turbulence. Yeah,
I mean, I think if anything, it just made me realize like how, like it really affirmed how badly I wanted it, because I think that it's almost like if your parents are like, oh, great, like, yeah, go be an artist, you almost like don't want it anymore. And so I think that like her being so adverse to like me following that path, or just having so much concern about it, made me so much more drawn to it, and so sure that was the path I needed to take, because there was just nothing else for me in a way.
Well, it's also, it took the wind out of me when I read it, because when you play one of your first gigs, you are sort of teaching yourself guitar, and you find the right teacher at a school that teaches a lot of people how to play guitar.
The Lesson Factory.
The Lesson, literally, the Lesson Factory, which isn't a good name. You feel like, what great art is going to come out of the lesson factory?
Yeah. It was like literally attached to a guitar center. Like we were, it was bizarre.
And everyone teaching you is enraged that their band didn't take off.
Yeah, they're all like failed, like Craig said.
Yeah, but you have this first gig and you play and your parents come and see you and you so much want your mother's approval. Really want your mother's approval. And I completely relate to this. And you keep sort of bringing up the show, and then you get to this part in the book where you sort of say, like, well, what'd you think? And she said, I'm just waiting for you to quit this.
Yeah.
That's got to be devastating to hear.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's a big reason of why I am still doing it in a way. I was sort of like told no many, many times for many years, and just had a very like embarrassing career for like 10 years, sleeping on like floors strewn with like cat poop and, you know, trying to sleep while like a party rages. Did you put the cat poop
there, or was it there naturally?
It was there naturally.
Well, I didn't know if you laid it out.
You think she laid out cat poop and then slept on it?
Just because she thought that I've got to live the artist's life.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not.
I used to do that.
Yeah.
It's very romantic.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that, I don't know, now like when I look back at that, I'm like, that's exactly why you are the way that you are. Because like, I don't know, I mean, she was like kind of setting me up for the rest of the world to do that. And so I kind of appreciate that now.
Yeah, you respond well to rejection. And you're, you know, it feels to me like you're a very strong person. And when you were told no, you doubled down.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, but when you're a teenager, you're just like, I am like the next Paul McCartney or whatever, you know. So I think that I had like you have like that kind of like teenage like courage and ego. But I don't know. I think that I was always like kind of a ham, so I think that kind of came naturally to me.
Well, it's funny because I have, you know, in our offices here, I have this office that has next to nothing in it.
Yeah.
Is there a ham?
There is a ham. It's hanging from a rope. And every now and then I just stand up and I take a chomp.
What?
Yeah.
It's like, just hanging there and you eat it?
Yeah, I don't even have to use my hands. I just chomp at it.
But you got to refrigerate it, don't you?
No, it's cured.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been there for 4 years.
Oh.
Man, we get off on these tangents and I
know,
no,
it throws it. Yeah.
I have a picture in my office, one of the only pictures I have, and someone took a picture of both my parents. I was doing some event. It was at the Kennedy Library.
Mm-hmm.
And you were there too. I was doing some event and my parents were in the crowd, and this is maybe 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And someone took a picture of both of them laughing at something I said, and they gave it to me, so I framed it and I have it on my desk because as a reminder that that's the only reason I do this. I honestly think that. I mean, people have this idea that, oh, you wanted to make a lot of money and you wanted, you know, it's these other things come along that are really nice. But initially, so many of us are just trying to make both or one of those two people laugh or proud in some way. And that's it. I know that it's a big theme in your book because the book is about you losing your mother, who got cancer at a fairly young age, and you spending a lot of time with her and processing all of this. And there's a part in the book where you say, I don't know, once she's gone, I mean, this all happened before Japanese breakfast. Who am I doing this for, if not for my mom? Mm-hmm. And it raises the question of how do you negotiate that? You know, when did you come to a point where you realize, well, somewhere my mom seeing this? Or
yeah, I mean, I think about that all the time as like a secular person of just, you know, I don't believe in an afterlife of any kind, but there's something like so magical about the way that things happened for me. You know, I've been playing music since I was 16 years old, and I played house shows, and, you know, no one cared about my band for a very long time. And after she died, I was like, I'm going to, you know, record one more record about this experience. And then, you know, I don't care what happens. I'll like press 500 copies and, you know, sell it out of like my basement over the course of like the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, was the record that kind of took off and really resonated with people. And it was like, oh, this is just like not quite the time to hang up my hat. And then after that, it was just like everything that happened just like felt like there was this like weird force that was kind of like looking out for me. And it's both like, it's very bittersweet because my mom never got to see me experience any kind of success and was like so worried about living the life of an artist, but now it just kind of has to feel like she knows somehow or is like responsible for it.
So you put this together, your mom passes away, and you decided, well, I'm going to go into advertising.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Which, you know, you don't hear of a lot. You don't hear of like Keith Richards saying, I'm going to do some advertising for a while.
Yeah, I mean...
His ads would be awful, by the way.
They would.
Boy, a Volkswagen. Fucking great car. Keith, over here. It's not a Volkswagen, it's a Buick. Ah, fuck. Sawed off, you fucking...
He's just napping.
Yeah.
I love the trail off at the end.
Oh, I experienced it with him. We'll get back to it. But I was in an SNL sketch once when I was super young. I was in my 20s, and Keith Richards was the musical guest, and it was live, and he was in the sketch also. And we're waiting for Tom Hanks to come around to us for our part of the sketch. And we're in the middle of a sketch that's live. He starts talking to me, and I'm holding a horse, which is important to know. And he thought that rather than me being I'm a comedian who's supposed to say a line, I'm a comedy writer holding a horse.
Wait, was it a real horse?
It was a real horse.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. It's a long, you can look it up online.
Did they take it up in the elevator?
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of...
I guess there's like a freight elevator.
There's a massive elevator at SNL that brings everything
all the
up.
horses, yeah.
No, I mean, they could get an elephant up there. I mean, I'm not kidding. They can... It was made to get incredible stuff up there. But I had a real horse, and I'm holding it, and Keith Richards thought that I was the owner of the horse. And
like the handler.
Like the handler.
Yeah.
And that it was my horse. And he starts going, oh, horses, man. They did it all. And I was like, please don't... Okay, Tom Hanks is headed this way, and we've got to say a line live on TV. I've got to say my line. My line is, please don't, Mr. Hanks, don't touch him. That horse bites everyone. And I'm so young. I'm like 23. I'm going over the lines in my head. He's like, oh, horses. Without them, we wouldn't have built civilization. And I keep going like, yes. Now, normally you'd think you'd be in a situation where you're talking to Keith Richards. You would hang on every word.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan. Instead, I'm like, shut up.
Shut up, Keith Richards.
Shut up. I gotta say my line. Look out, Mr. Hanks, don't touch that horse. He bites everyone. Oh, I mean, you think about it. Horses are the ones.
You wanted Keith Richards to stop talking to you.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I still sometimes, yeah. He's got to learn to shut up, that guy. There's certain themes that I've seen in my life, and sometimes it's almost when you give up and you're not trying anymore, and you get to a place of, okay, I made this, I put it out there, it's a message in a bottle, but I don't really need it to blow up. I don't need it to become this seminal record for me. And of course it does.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
When you let everything go and you have no ambitions or hopes for anything, you like almost find this like real version of yourself, and that's like what people cling to, or like they can feel it in this way. I feel like when people are trying to like put on airs in a way, you can just like smell it from a mile away when something is like not. Like I always feel like I know when people aren't singing in their real voice, and I feel like I kind of finally found that with that record.
Yes. When something's forced, what I love is that audiences know it.
Yeah.
When I saw you perform, you just had this real joy of being out there. The music is great, but that's also part of it, is I feel like this is therapeutic for you or life-giving to you.
Yeah, I mean, I've wanted it for so long, and so it feels so great to get to do it, you know, with your friends and a bunch of people wearing flower crowns.
I didn't have a flower crown. I was amazed at how I saw many people wearing very little clothing there.
It's very hot.
You weren't wearing like your Daisy Dukes and like that woven vest or anything?
I was wearing a thong.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. I'm trying to eat here. That's disgusting. I think my body's beautiful, Sona.
I'm sorry.
As the 11 people buckle below his weight.
His thong ass trying to lift you up in your thong.
Don't touch the thong! But pass me towards the stage.
I gotta hit that medium-sized gong.
That gong, it's not quite to my size expectations.